If the polls are to be believed, meanwhile, the Conservatives have got quite a lot of ground to make up in this general election campaign. Some putting Rishi Sunak now some 20 points plus behind Sir Keir Starmer. Is it possible then for the Tories to turn it all around in a matter of weeks? Ryan Shorthouse joins me now, founder and executive chair of Bright Blue. That's an independent think tank for liberal conservatism. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning.
Shall we start then with what might indeed turn it around for Sunak or Sir Keir Starmer himself? Front of the Telegraph this morning, Starmer lacks the courage to debate me, says Rishi Sunak. PM hopes to expose, it says, Labour's empty plans in weekly TV face-offs. Well, a couple of issues on that. Can we all perhaps take a weekly face-off, and how important do you think, how pivotal might televised and radio sparring indeed be?
Well, I don't think it will be particularly consequential to the outcome of the election, but I would say that I think the Prime Minister does perform better in debates. Some people say when he's delivering a speech, it can be a little bit wooden and robotic, but actually when he's engaging with people, asking questions and he's providing detail, that's where he really thrives, because he's somebody who really does master the detail. So it kind of makes sense that he wants to be in televised debates, because that sort of plays to his strengths, and he feels that he could probably show more command of detail than his opposite number.
Let's look at another headline. Talking of detail, The Guardian, for example, Rishi Sunak begins election campaign by abandoning flagship policies, much of them very much heralded, of course, bills on smoking ban and no-fault evictions likely to be dropped. He already admitted on LBC yesterday morning that a flight to Rwanda won't take off ahead of polling day. Given then there's simply not enough time to get laws through Parliament before work stops, what's your view on that when it comes to the message that'll send out to the electorate?
Well, I mean, all of us, I think, were taken by surprise that the Prime Minister called an election this summer. People were not expecting it. They were thinking he's going to leave it some months for the economic recovery to really take hold, for immigration numbers to come down. But he's obviously decided to go early. And I think probably he's trying to kind of ride the first bit of the wave of some of this good news. So inflation's coming down, the immigration numbers are starting to come down. But I find it puzzling that he hasn't wanted to wait a little bit longer for those things to really sort of set in. I think the other thing is, I feel probably the election is in the long-term interest for the economy, because there's obviously a lot of uncertainty. Everyone knows an election's coming. Everyone's expecting it towards the end of the year. And a lot of people and businesses were putting plans on hold as a result of that. So I think it's probably in the national interest to have the election as soon as possible. But I don't really think it's in the Prime Minister's interest, because he's basically said, I'm going to give up another 6 months of trying to put through kind of memorable, long-lasting legislation like the smoking ban, for example, the generational smoking ban, like abolishing no-fault evictions. And he's sort of, a Prime Minister's got to think, can I win? But also, can I build a reputation? Will people say, oh, well, he lost, but he did these great things? And it strikes me that he's kind of cutting himself a little bit short to achieve those things. So I find the decision odd, to be honest.
Talking of short, let me seize on that word. You'll know that another Conservative MP this morning, yet another, has confirmed they won't be standing in the next general election. That's John Redwood, who's represented Wokingham in 9 parliaments now. Do you think Rishi Sunak might indeed find himself short of candidates at this rate?
Well, I think both Conservatives and Labour have got a very short period of time now to fill candidate positions for a large part of the country. I think both parties need to do that pretty quickly. And that's an interesting thing, because it does mean that the centre, i.e. the central parties, have a little bit more influence, I think, over the decision-making of local selection areas. So that's just an interesting observation. Because sometimes local selection areas become quite frustrated with a feeling that candidates from the centre are being parachuted in. But look, it feels like we're sort of at an end of an era. There's lots of quite high profile politicians like John Redwood deciding now is the time to step down. Obviously, Theresa May has said that as well. So it feels like this sort of, 14-year conservative led period is coming to an end. And the numbers who are retiring from being an MP is an indication of that, really. And you feel that the public feels that as well, that the kind of signal that Starmer is giving about this is a time for change, that really is coming through in terms of public mood.
Really good to speak with you this morning, Ryan. Thanks ever so much. Ryan Shorthouse there, founder and executive chair of Bright Blue, an independent think tank for liberal conservatism.